This action, and nothing is being proposed tonight for a potential use. The city does not have any intention of a use at this point. It is zoned as light manufacturing, which has a series of uses, permitted and conditional. Any proposed use at some point would have to go through any required city regulations at that time. So again, the Planning Commission is exclusively being asked to look at the preliminary plat request. In addition to the preliminary plat, public vacation needs to be approved, and the city council is required to hold that public hearing for public vacations. City council will be holding said public hearing this Monday, the 25th at 7 p.m. And then they will entertain approval of all the preliminary plat, final plat, and a public vacation at that meeting. Council makes all final decisions.
What's a vacation?
Vacation is where you have former right-of-way. So this is excess street right-of-way from the Highway 61 County Road B intersection. I'll walk through where we're looking, but it's essentially unused public right-of-way that is being turned back for a private use. So the overall site as proposed in the preliminary plat would be just under 1.5 acres. So you see the 1.47. This is made up of just less than an acre of the original site, what was the remnants of the former Keller gas station, and then just under half an acre of unused right-of-way. And then as part of the realignment of Maplewood Drive and the broader interchange project, a small parcel of land had been purchased from Menards, and there is 237 square feet that is left over now that would be part of this overall site. So of that 1.47 acre site, the blue outline indicates where that just under an acre original site, that is the parcel of property today. The yellow, which is a little hard now to see on the screen, but that's the right-of-way. So again, that runs along Highway 61. That right-of-way was turned back from both MnDOT and the county to the city. So now that is city-controlled right-of-way, and the city is moving forward with a request to vacate that right-of-way so it can no longer be used for street purposes. You will see, and I'll show on an aerial photo in just a couple slides, a good part of that area would be covered by a drainage and utility easement, so it would not be buildable area, but it would be part of the overall parcel of property. And then lastly, near the upper right corner is that small 237 square feet area that is the remnants of the former Menards parcel. So again, remember how Maplewood Drive was realigned, and there was property needed from Menards to facilitate that, and then the end result after the road was alignment was completed, this was the area that was ultimately not needed, but had already been purchased. So these are approximately how all the pieces fit together to make the overall parcel of property that you're looking at for a preliminary plat tonight. And then this shows, again, approximation on how that overall boundary would look on existing site conditions as you see today. You will notice on this particular aerial, because the site was used for staging for an interceptor project that Met Council did along Highway 61. They had that torn up for quite a while. That project is now complete, but you can tell on the west side of the site how that is an area that is needed to be under that drainage and utility easement. So again, that's the west corridor of that site would not be eligible for a building mass or parking lot to be put onto it. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat that's before you tonight. The recommendation is included on the first page of your report, and I just remind the chairperson that this is a public hearing. So thank you.
Now, did we have to pay anything for the public right-of-way from the county?
Chair and board, no.
Do you know what the value of this property is going to be eventually, or is that?
As part of this project, the city is going to have an appraisal done. Now that we're nearing having a parcel of property to appraise, so we are engaging actually this week with an appraiser to conduct such an appraisal. But this, Mr. Love from the Public Works Department started this work just to unweave the layers between MnDOT and the county like 2 years ago. So it's taken that long of time to get all essentially the title work and everything in line so that we're in position to plat it at this time. So we didn't want to have an appraisal done 2 years ago and now it'd be out of date. So we will be moving forward with an appraisal before anything gets marketed.
Where does that funds go then? When it's sold, where does that roll?
It would go back towards the street improvement project, the Highway 3661 project.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know it was for sale a while back too. Was it Brass or somebody that was?
Mike Brass had been chair and board, the city's broker on several pieces of property.
Right, right.
But yeah, this land was purchased because of that improvement project, and so those funds then are required to go back towards paying that project off.
Now, there's no right-of-way with that manhole, that huge manhole they have there for the sewer there, is there on the northern part there? There's a big, that's where they had dug a big hole, and now there's a big manhole covered
Yep, and
there.
that's part of the drainage and utility easement, so that would be on the property, but it's it's covered by an easement, so no, again, no building would occur over it.
But they still would get the property,
The boundary would, yeah.
you're still within it. They just-
Almost every property in the city has a drainage and utility easement on the borders of it. This one would be a little bigger because of the interceptor.
Okay.
But won't the snow be a factor too when they're cleaning the Highway 61, the snow that falls in that area?
Chair and Commission, yeah, correct. And MnDOT's very protective of their rights of way, so they didn't turn back anything that they would have needed for snow removal. So again, the lines that you're seeing here, other than the pre-plat drawing itself, but the colored lines that I drew on are approximate. So MnDOT does have appropriate snow loading areas to be able to clean the street.
How come it doesn't go to where the road is there? Because almost touches the road there at one point.
Again, Chair, Commissioner Arbach, we can go back here, let's go back to I just wanted to show it on an aerial to give you an approximation on how the parcel could fit into it.
Okay.
Typically, property lines, including any of your homes, your property lines don't go to the street. They're
Right.
always set back, typically 10 to 20 feet. So if we look at the plat drawing, that's, those lines are not touching the street on any side of it.
Okay, because it just looked like the red lines were almost. on that
Again,
one point.
that's because it's an approximation that I drew on there.
Okay.
So what are the goals that the city has besides the comprehensive plan and zoning code?
Chair and board, the city's not proposing any changes to those official controls, so it's guided as mixed-use community by the 2040 plan and zone light manufacturing. So as far as city goals, I think having that appraisal will shed some light as to what kind of market there is for this type of property. And that we would have to potentially engage with a broker or have some other kind of marketing of the site. It's a tough site. So, I know the city is not just going to be in a position to sell it just to anyone. The city has that control to make sure it's going to be a quality development and add to the neighborhood, because ultimately the city doesn't have to sell it one way or the other. But that's to be determined at this point.
So have we got near to something like this before?
Not platting, but I know the site there had been users in the past, potentially of a coffee user that had been interested in the site, but obviously did not move forward. So what the city's trying to do at this point, instead of waiting for a user and then trying to take care of all this underlying legal work that would have that would hang up a potential project for potentially a year or so, we've been working to clear all this up, so at the end of the day, we have one single shovel-ready parcel of property.
You give it to me, I'll put a donut shop there.
Well, talk to your counsel.
Did anybody else have any questions? Fred, do you have anything? Would you like to come up? I know you live right across the street from there, don't you?
Yeah,
Yep. Would you like to come up to the microphone and?
okay. Well, my name is Kathy Dupre, and I live at 1071 County Road B, which is the one and only house affected ever by all of this since we moved there 20-some years ago. My first question is there any, and it doesn't look like it, but I want to make sure, they're not going to dink around with the property line the way it is right now? They're not gonna go across the street closer to our house and move the road or any of that stuff?
Mike, would you like to
Anybody?
answer that, or do you want me to?
Chair and board, so no, the parcel of property will not extend onto the east side of Maplewood Drive. Really, the intention of this is to create a boundary of property lines that are self-contained already within that between west of Maplewood Drive and then east of Highway 61. So it will not interfere with any residential property lines to the east or change any of the street alignments.
Everything will stay the same?
Correct.
So they're not gonna come in and tear our wall down that we fought tooth and nail for?
No.
Okay. The other thing is where it gets to go to the point there, and there is that big thing they put in there, that big drainage thing in there. There can't be anything built on the other side of that, right? I mean, there's just hardly nothing there after that. So any kind of building site, I'm thinking, in my own mind, would be from that pump station there, whatever it's called, over to County Road B.
Chair and board, looking at the graph on here, so that yellow rectangle or polygon is an area where no building or parking will occur. That will be an easement, meaning that the lot can count towards, the square footage can count towards the lot, but it's not going to be an area that's buildable. It will be protected by the easement. So really, this blue area is the only buildable area. So any building and parking lot is going to be somewhere in there, and likely probably closer as to County Road B as the city would allow. You know, that's my thought, that a potential user, developer is going to want to be more oriented to the south.
And we
So
still have to keep-
okay.
And we still have to keep our property distance, the
Correct,
borders
Chair
or
and
whatever
Chair and
that
Commission, all setbacks would be
setbacks, yeah.
required.
setbacks.
How much building space does that leave a person then? How much square feet is from there to the end for a building and a parking lot?
Chair and Commission, as the graphic shows, it's just under an acre, which is, none of you were here for the meeting before, but the planning commi, or the Community Design Review Board approved a 4,000 square foot building on a similar sized parcel. So we definitely have seen plenty of development projects occur on 1 acre sites. It's obviously not going to be a substantial or huge project, but there is enough area where if the right user came along and the city was interested in it, that a project could occur.
I wouldn't think it'd be more than a couple thousand square feet.
Yeah.
Well, it's been our hope from the get-go, and we've expressed this before, that they just leave the acre of land alone and turn it into green space, because there's so much asphalt around that area already with the golf course and with Menards. It'd be nice if they could just leave that. It's really nice if you ever been down there recently without anything there now. You get a good sight of the, what's coming and going, because I don't think there's many accidents there, but there's a lot of almost misses there because nobody stops at that stop sign. They just kind of roll up to it and then turn onto County Road B to make their turn there coming from Menards. So it's really nice to have that open space there. Plus, obviously, we don't want to smell coffee cooking all day or donuts or, whatever, a smokestack from some small business grinding metal or whatever might, occupy that. So it's always been our hope that they could just leave it alone and let it be the way it is. Grass is growing. It's really kind of nice, and less drainage going into, another parking lot there and a building. So we're happy it's not going to go across the street. We were worried because we couldn't understand the drawing when we got it, then we're like, oh my God, they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. So we're glad to hear that. But we will be coming to the city council meetings, and again, we're going to express that they just leave it I think a few years ago, maybe quite a few, we voted to have money and have our taxes increased and have money to buy open spaces in Maplewood. Well, here's a nice little plot of land that they could just leave alone. They made some money off of it, I think, when they, didn't that outfit rent or lease that plot of land for their machinery and everything when they did the sewer? I
Chair and
think they-
Commission, yes, that's true, the Met Council, there was some arrangement. I'll be honest, I'm not privy, or I didn't pay attention to
Yeah,
that
yeah, I don't think any of us would know
arrangement,
that, yeah, yeah.
You know, so they already made some money on it, so,
Yeah, we can, I appreciate your input on that. When they, does come to the time where they decide they want to build something, that would be your best time to hopefully put your input at
Yeah,
that point, then, you
yeah,
know.
I understand
And
that.
I know how well you keep your property there and everything is really sharp and looks really nice there too, so I know how,
well, we try, but,
You
you
know.
know, like I said, we've been through a lot since we bought that place, you know, Menards wasn't there, you know, the road that they did a few years ago, I mean, that just impacted our place. They tore all the trees out of there, and then we had to fight tooth and nail to get that wall, you know, which really helps. We will love our wall. So we're glad, you know, we
I
didn't know
bet, I
at
bet.
first if we were gonna, but we really love our wall. And we've even maintained the berm there along it. We've planted grass, flowers, whatever, to maintain it, to keep it nice. So we're glad that it won't impact us. But anyway, so that's where we're coming from.
okay?
Thanks for your time.
Sure, well, thank you.
All right.
And you'd only smell the smells when the wind was coming from the west, so you wouldn't smell the donuts.
And the wind doesn't always come from the west, does it? Mostly? Yeah. I don't know, if you have any questions.
I'm the one with the notebook all the time. Deborah Dupre, 1071 East County Road B. And I'm actually really happy. She covered a lot of the things that I have in my notebook. But we've been there since 1986. That's a long time. And we have gone through a multitude of struggles to try to maintain the value of our home. Not that we're going to sell it, because I plan on dying there. And, but you know how it is. You want your property to continually have, you know, the positivity of being able to sell it if you have to. And like she addressed already, the traffic situation, it is horrendous. If you stand there on that corner and try to imagine a business there, it's incredible. I don't know how many people can pull out of that area, you know, unless it's really strategically designed, without, you know, having lots of horns beeping and people, their tires are screeching, and because it's just like, could there be a traffic study there? I mean, it's crazy, and I'm sure you guys know, I'm sure you go to Menards, and you know what that intersection is like. As to the type of redevelopment, you know, the thing that I'm concerned about is, first off, who would ever want a 24-hour place? Because even with our wall, in that front corner, right where the street signs are, where, okay, if you were coming off of 61 and you were going to turn into Menards, or not into Menards, but on Maplewood Drive, the car lights shine into our living room window, even though we have some arborvitaes and whatever, but the wall falls short of that. And when I'm watching my TV, it shines right on my living room wall and onto my TV. Yes, I would also like to see green space. You know, I realize development is, you know, the city would like to have their tax dollars. I understand that. But we pay taxes too. And I'm really glad to hear about the wall, because I love the wall. It's a very nice protection for us. It's a sound barrier. A big concern would be drainage, because a few years ago, I did not bring my pictures, but I don't know how many years ago, but our whole backyard was flooded, and I was in chest-deep water because the drainage was it just was not appropriate, yes.
That was before the new road there.
And that was, yes, but last winter, we had a lot of snow, and we got rain, and I was up into chest-deep water again in the middle of winter, calling 911 for them to come out and contact the city and pump out our yard. And thank God, within about an hour, 2 wonderful men showed up from the city of Maplewood and helped us, because we have been flooded several times. We had a 6-foot,
That was in 13, because that's the year my mother died, and I was watching my mother die, and I got a call that our yard was being flooded.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, so that was in 2013.
yeah. But I'm talking about last winter.
And then
Yeah,
last winter,
yeah.
but this is stuff that maybe we should bring up to the city.
Well, I just want you guys to hear this. I mean, I'm sorry I'm taking so much of your time, but, so there's a huge drainage problem, okay? If it's not correctly taken care of. And, you know, I feel like I know we chose to live there, but we've basically been redevelopment victims and have had to come and testify at least 12 times to try to restore and take care of our property. And thank you for your time. I just wanted you to hear that.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Kathy, too. Anybody have anything else? You want to make a motion? Seeing everyone that has spoken in the public, I will close the public hearing.
Chairman, move to approve the Keller Addition preliminary plat located at 2228 Maplewood Drive.
There's been a motion by Deshar, second by Fred. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, this passed. This is just a recommendation by us. This will go before the city.
Chair and Board, yeah, the city council this Monday, the
This Monday.
25th, and the council, if you haven't received the notice yet in the mail, you will be receiving it in the next day or so. So this Monday at 7 PM, there's a public hearing on the public vacation aspect. So that's specifically what the public hearing is about. The council likely will take testimony on these other issues that you'd like to bring forward, but this Monday is when the council will be having that public hearing and make a final decisions. Again, that's just on creating the lot itself. It's a different decision point. I just want to clarify, to sell the lot and then approve development on it. So there are different stages that would have to occur, but I know our council would be interested in hearing that feedback at every step of the way.
So that's just putting everything together, so it's all one.
Correct.
one piece.
So the council meeting on Monday will be the council will approve this.
Chair and Board, yes, if the council were to approve it, it would create a parcel of property as you see here. Nothing more than that at that point.
At this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
It could be years before anything happens, or right away, or. Okay. We are at new business, the Planning Commission Annual Report.
Sure, Chair and Commission, you will likely have one more meeting in 2019 in December, and so we will amend the report as needed. But what the city typically produces this Planning Commission annual report as part of the larger Community Development Department annual report, and then we pass it out at the State of the City in January. So I wanted to make sure that the Planning Commission had a chance to look at a preliminary copy of what the annual report two-page spread for the planning commission would say. I know last year, or earlier this year really, for your 2018 report, when you approved it, the book was already printed, and I asked you not to tell me if you wanted any changes. So we're trying to be ahead of it, more so like we did in the first year, where you get to see a draft form. If there's some verbiage you'd like to see, or typos, or we missed something, this would be, you could do it here, but we are asking for a motion, but you could also follow up with me after the meeting. And what I will be committing to you is that the design of the overall two-page spread might change a little bit as we look to keep it somewhat fresh-looking. As you probably know, this is pretty similar to the last 2 years, which isn't a negative point, but if there's some tweaks that we can make to keep the document visually interesting, we're going to move forward with that. All that said, I will forward the commission via email that final draft of what we're looking to ultimately produce, so that you have a chance to take one last look at it. So with that, your 2019 actions are outlined within that first page. We tried to find some themes of areas that the commission worked on through 19, instead of just listing the projects, which we did at the bottom of the page for your major projects. And then the second page just has a brief paragraph on looking ahead for 2020, comparative, workloads for past years, and then an outline of the commission itself. And now, I know we only have 4 members here tonight, and if we do end up having that December 17th meeting, I'm hoping for robust attendance, and maybe we can try another photo and get more, if not all 7 members. But before you leave tonight, we'll ask if we could just do a quick photo with the members that are here in presence, and then we'll see what we can do in January. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve its annual report for 2019, and I can entertain any questions or comments at this point.
Who wrote it?
Staff does. Staff writes
Because
it.
I noticed that this year there was some unusual words in here that added like flair to it, like diligently and took special care and judicial and major drive. There's some.
Well, Chair and Commission, we've been reading our thesaurus, and we're trying to expand our vocabulary, so.
Yeah, so it sounds really professional then too.
Yeah, because we're moving forward.
That's right. The other thing too, what we do is we hold public hearings too. That wasn't kind of in there too, I think.
Sure.
That had kind of been,
That's a good point, yeah.
But yeah, it sounded good. I thought it sounded like professional, yeah.
What about those projects that some of us volunteered for? I'm not-
Capital improvement plan? North End Vision Plan you're talking about?
I'm talking about the one,
Or Rice Street you're on?
Rice
yeah.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was independent though of this, right?
Well, Chair and Commission, so Rice Street Larpenter was highlighted in your annual report last year, and so it's an ongoing effort with the city, and there will be a page in the overall document, but it hasn't been something that's been brought
okay.
to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Planning
been
Commission
brought to the
itself.
Planning
Okay,
Commission.
yeah, got you, yeah, all right, yeah.
That's old news.
Just
No,
different
You're
news.
living in the past.
No, it's alive. It's ongoing.
Yep, I think this is good.
Yeah, I like it. This is nice.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks very much, Yeah, this is good.
So did we have to do an approval on it or just?
Yeah, it says recommended action, recommend approval of the Planning Commission's 20 annual report.
I
make
move
the
that we
motion.
So
approve.
Desar made a motion,
Second,
second by Alan. All those in favor?
Aye.
So that's in the works for us to continue on that. Anybody going to be leaving us? Everybody's still good here for 20s? I see some 20s.
Well, Chair and Commission, I should point out, so yeah, there are a couple terms that are up at the end of this year. Commissioner Desai and Commissioner Kempe. And that's at the end so in December, you should receive that letter. So I made some assumptions that you would want to be reappointed, and the council did reappoint you. But yeah, technically, Commissioners Desai and Kempe, their terms at the end of this year.
Okay. So then,
I'm a lifer. Any unfinished business? Visitors' presentations, commissioner presentations on October 20th, City Council, Commissioner Kempe, Auto Tech School, Frost and English Village Retail, Carver Elementary Edition, Elm Creek Senior Housing. Did you,
Sir, yeah, Chair and Commission, I wasn't at the meeting either, but I do know everything, all four projects were approved, and were consistent with the Planning Commission's recommendations. And so, and then the next item, and Commissioner Eads is on target for the Monday's council meeting. We can either follow up with one of four of you, or I believe staff would be able to satisfactorily convey the Planning Commission's recommendation tonight on Monday, so.
it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any presentations from you?
Chair and Commission, I have nothing further for you tonight.
Okay, we'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second, all those in favor?
So has Menards approached you about anything going on in the property there? Have they said anything, nothing? No, nothing going on